Boom, we're live. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Tech Chief channel. I'm Josh, etc., etc. Insert cool and trendy introduction here. Yeah, it's 3:30 p.m. Eastern time right now, and I'm streaming at a very different time than I normally do. But with that being said, I want to talk about something that is prevalent today and tell you guys kind of a little story as to why I'm talking about it. And if you guys haven't seen the title is Getting the Right Job as a Programmer. So I'll preface this conversation with, for some people, getting a job as like a developer or software engineer, even if, whatever kind of like beginner job you could think of is the most like beginner for a programmer. So maybe, I don't know, some kind of like front end position. Okay. I shit you guys not. Actually, I know somebody who got a job as a quote HTML developer. And I'm like, I asked them about it and they were doing way more than writing HTML. And I don't think anyone would ever, oh man, that's a different topic for a different day. I think the people that made that job title probably had some malicious intent behind it. But Alex, what's up, man? I didn't know if anyone was going to come see today because I'm at a weird streaming time. But guys, so like if you're a beginner, then just getting any kind of job to get your foot in the door is sometimes enough, right? And I would say that's rightfully so, especially if you're a beginner. I remember when I was trying to get my first programming job, and I got lucky. I actually did get so I had two first jobs, right? One of them I had quit like 2 weeks in, and I probably have talked about that on the channel before. I won't talk about that today, but my real first job, I got lucky. It was a decent job. It wasn't I wasn't getting paid like $1 bazillion or anything like that, but it was a good job for my resume and for the simple fact that I gained like an enormous amount of experience from it. And for the most part, I didn't have a lot of issues with it. I didn't really feel like I was a human tool all the time at that place. Now, the reason I mentioned that term human tool is because there are a lot of instances where a company will like overtly treat an employee as a tool or an asset, and in some cases, subhuman. Okay. Sounds like a joke. I'm not joking. And some of you guys that are in the workforce probably know that that's not a joke. So with that in mind, like what is the difference between a right or the right and the wrong job for you? And like most times that I'm talking about job sourcing and getting a job, etc. on this channel, I'm always targeting it under the preface that whoever is watching it out there is trying to become a programmer, a software developer, a software engineer, or some kind of like tech related job. But like a lot of the other times, this can apply to a lot of other jobs as well. Okay. So I told you guys I was going to say a story. And the story actually is the reason why I wanted to make the stream topic today. But one of the guys in my group, I won't say his name. And if you're in the group, you guys have been seeing the chat, you guys might know what's up. One of the guys in my group, he's been doing really good. This was his, I think he joined DD back in like November of 2020 or maybe December of 2020, a long time ago, way back when developer direction was just like this thing that I had just started. In fact, it wasn't even called developer direction at that time. I was just teaching people how to code and helping them through the job process underneath just my own name. At the time, my own name was Eliv Program. I wasn't even Tech Chief. So the whole concept, like I was still so small at that point, didn't even have a name. Okay. And this was when the COOF was going on and everything was like kind of shutting down. Everybody was contracting. And he had some issues with his current job that he was at. And he was kind of in like the tech related space, but not really so much. He was at a smaller, I wouldn't say small. He was at a small kind of startup type of finance company. And he had worn many hats there for many, many years. And he, on paper, he had like all kinds of like weird, strange titles. Some were like, uh, you know, CTO. And technically on paper, he was a CTO, but it wasn't like basically the whole point of me saying this, guys, is when it came time for him to leave the place he was at because of reasons, and to start his job search into the tech field, a more stringent type of tech field. His resume had all kinds of stuff on it, and it took some time. And I think in, let's see, maybe like somewhere between 4 to 6 months, he went through the whole process. And keep in mind, this was during the coof, right? Everybody was freaking out. A lot of people had like either been laid off or had been like shuffling around, moving from place to place, doing whatever, right? The great resignation was going on. So he did have somewhat of an uphill battle, but he did it. He got a job, and he'd been at this place, or he's still technically he's at this place right now since about 4 months after the end of 2020. Okay, 4 to 6 months after. I don't know the exact date. All right, if you're listening, then you know. If you're listening, you know who you are, and maybe you can correct me in the DM or something like that. But that's not really the whole point of me telling you guys a story. So, what had happened to him when he initially got this first job, which, by the way, it is a pretty good job. It's a decent job. It's basically right at the 6-figure mark, and 6-figure per year. And he had initially signed on to the company as a private contractor. So he was going through like a contracting company, and the company that he works for pays the company that employs him, and that company pays him. Okay. If you guys are familiar with the whole like working as a contractor deal, it's not a very uncommon thing. In fact, it's a very common thing. There are many reasons why even people would personally just choose to be a contractor as opposed to working as a quote unquote full-time employee for the exact company that they're quote unquote staffed at. Okay. And lately, in the last couple months, he wrote it out for a little bit over a year. And which, by the way, that's usually what you want to do when you're trying to like take the next leg up. You usually want to stay at your current place for like one year, anywhere between 6 months to like 2 years. I think 2 years maybe probably like the maximum amount of time that you'd want to stay at if your plan is to like go on to something quote unquote bigger and better. Which really, in all honesty, what I mean by bigger and better in that sense, guys, is more pay. All right. Better experience and more responsibilities is good too, because if you continually want to do that until you get to a point where you say, I'm happy, I'm content, I'm staying where I'm at, then the experience is kind of important. But let's just say that we're just talking about pay right now. He's been there and he's been working as a contractor, and he decided, okay, I think it's time. I'm like right a little bit over the year mark. I think that it's time for me to go and move on to try to find something bigger and better. So during that process, he had applied to a few places, and since this time, he's coming from he's coming from a less necessitous spot in life. He is currently still employed with a good job, and that means that if he's going to go and searching for a job, he doesn't need to take whatever he can or just take whatever seems to be good on paper. He can be picky with the things that he wants to do and the places that he wants to go and apply at. And he did quite a few different interviews at quite a few different companies and found some better than the others. And inevitably, he ended up getting a offer for a very, very, very large company that probably most of us know. Even if we don't know what the company is, we've heard of it before once or twice in the last 20 years. And it was a not like massive like upgrade, but financially it was 100% an upgrade. Okay. And he signed the offer with them, and like some of the other guys in the group, the current fad is like double dipping. Now, if you guys don't know what double dipping is, to put that simply, that's just basically like if you're in tech, or even if you're not in tech, whatever. If you're in a field that can be remote, taking on more than one full-time job at a time and basically getting 2 different paychecks. Now, how that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. That's a whole different story, but I'm just letting you guys know the situation, okay? And he still was kind of like, I don't know if I want to like maybe try out both. Maybe I'll just and after like a month or two, I'll just quit one and just see which one's the best one for me. But during this process, because he actually ended up getting an offer to a new place, his place that he was currently at, he had actually already tried to go through the process of going from a contractor to being a full-time employee with them. All right. Remember back at the beginning of the stream, I was trying to explain the difference between, like a contractor and then working as a quote unquote full-time employee. Well, usually when that happens, you're supposed to gain some benefit, right? Not saying that you're going to go from like making $100,000 a year to $200,000 a year. If you do that, that's probably not going to happen. But you should expect some kind of pay grade bump, because what happens is, so if you guys remember, if you're a contractor, you have a contracting company that's like staffing you, they're paying you, and the company that you're working for is paying them, right? So you have this middleman in the process right there, and anytime there's a middleman, some money gets allocated to the middleman, right? So if you remove the middleman, there's more money. It's kind of like, just makes sense, right? So during the whole process for the current company that he's already been at for a year, they basically made him re-interview for the entire thing again. And the process to interview for this one was like insanely more stringent than it was when he had originally interviewed for the contracting position. Now, when I got my first job, guys, the first 6 months, technically it was like 11 months, but the first 6 months were supposed to be contract, and it was a contract to hire. So basically, after a certain amount of time, if you do good and you don't do a terrible job, and the place needs you and wants to keep you, then they will go ahead and hire you. They'll extend that full-time offer, and then they'll kind of cut the middleman out. Now, the reason why there is a middleman in the first place is kind of make it like a less risky thing to do. Okay, so which I think I don't think I need to explain all that, but like to make that short and sweet. Why is it an easier thing? It's a less risky thing, and it's easier for the company that's actually the one that you would be doing the physical work for, because like, hey, if this person doesn't work out, they're just on a contract. You don't have to like lay them off and go through all this. Like, when a company lays somebody off, guys, if it's a real company, or if it's like a real traditional W-2 type of position, if they lay you off, they have to basically report that they laid people off or laid you off, and they have to like go and pay money into unemployment. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but basically the company it's painful for them to have to lay you off. Okay. Not all the times, but it is going to be a little painful for them, at least financially. And then at the same time, they're going to have to like go and find a new person. Although they would have to do that anyway, but it just makes things easier for the company. Okay. And if it works out, hey, you can take them on for full time. If it doesn't work out, just wash your hands. The company can wash their hands of it and be done, and it's all hunky dory, right? And same for you too. So I kind of been through a similar situation, but fortunately for me, in that first job that I had, there wasn't really much friction at all going from that contracting position into the full time with that company. Okay. Him, on the other hand, the guy from our story, there was a lot of friction. Okay. Still some friction going on. And today I find out that they basically on top of the fact that they were making this whole him re-interview for the same position he was already at, and they're letting him know that he's going to have quite a few extra responsibilities for the same job that he's at already. All right, they're basically like, hey, if we're going to bring you on full time, you're going to be doing the same job, but we're going to give you even more responsibility. So we're going to give you more work to do. Okay, fair enough. That's part of leveling up, right? That's part of like growing up and part of moving on and upwards into your field, right? But instead of giving him that little bit increase, like I said, guys, the whole middleman, the third party middleman taking a little bit of money out of there, when that's removed, basically the company should be able to either spend the same amount and you're going to get a substantial amount more, or they can or most likely, depending on how much the middleman is charging, they can even pay you more, and then they'll still be saving more money, right? So makes sense. Sounds nice, right? So while he's going through this interview process, instead, what they do is they basically offer him like 15% less in total in a year than what he's making now from the contracting company. And yeah, so he talked to me about it, and I expressed how I felt about it to him, and I think we were both on the same page about that. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of a scummy thing to do. And again, I'm not mentioning the guy, not mentioning the company or anything like that. I feel like it's kind of like that's kind of one of those situations that I was prefacing at the beginning of the stream, where I said there's many instances where a company will treat people kind of like a tool or an asset. And like, quite frankly, I use the term subhuman. I wasn't trying to be facetious about that. Like, that's kind of like a it's a I guess you could say it's a dehumanizing thing. Like, you know, could you imagine working for a place and they value you so little for a year, and when you go to basically get a raise and they remove your salary, and then they want to remove your salary by like 15%, while we have all this like economic fuckery afoot and inflation, et cetera, and they also want to increase your workload. That's kind of like, you know, that's kind of not so great, right? So in this case, luckily for him, luckily for our friend here in the story, he already accepted a job offer somewhere else, right? And he had intended on doing the whole double dip thing, right? Now what he can do is he can basically just say, you know what, I'm not going to accept the new full-time thing. I'm just going to continue to contract with you guys. And while he's starting the new company, where by the way, he wouldn't be a contractor, he would be full-time already, he can divert most of his attention and his effort into this new one, as opposed to this other one that he clearly has been at for over a year, working very hard. By the way, the guy was working very hard, doing everything he was supposed to do and more, because he intended to go from contractor to full time. Now he can give less attention and time and effort to them and more into this new one. And if the other place, the current place, the older place is like complains about it, well, he can just say, yeah, you know what, maybe I'm not good to be here anymore. Maybe I should just leave. And he can leave, and he'll be able to wash his hands, and he'll already have somewhere else that he's already going to be at with some income coming in, right? Which, by the way, was more income and a better, well-known company. I will also add that the current company that I'm talking about that he's at, that was wanting to, increase his workload and decrease his salary by 15% as like a raise, kind of, sort of, because you could consider that to be a raise. I would consider going from a contractor to a full-time employee kind of like a raise. This company has been having lots of problems, from what he's been telling me and the other guys in the group, that they have lots of people quitting. They're calling it a war on talent. And in a stream not so long ago, I was talking about the same thing. Like, we've still got companies who are claiming to not be able to have an easy time, not just maintaining their current workforce, but also finding new people to work there, right? It seems like this company, if this company is doing kind of the same thing that they did to him, to other people, to me, it seems like a no-brainer. But in this case, guys, I would say to him that, hey, now we know this current one that you've been at, it's not the right job for you, right? So what is the right job? Because that's what the stream is about. That's the question. What is the right job? And like I said, honestly, this is going to be different from person to person, especially with beginners. Okay. Again, I'll double down on, hey, if you're just trying to get your foot in the door, you're trying to get your first break, you can accept a job that's just kind of decent. And if it's going to be a job like this, and by decent, guys, I'm not talking about just like the pay. Okay. Yes, pay is important. All right. I would say pay is probably the least important thing. So let's just say if you're learning how to code and you're trying to get a job as a programmer, pay is the least important thing in the beginning. Because what you need to be doing, if you actually want to have something, if you want to have a substantially long-lasting and like very fluorescent career, you want to have lots out of it, right? You want it to be very nice. You want to get good money. You want to get good experience. You want to be able to do good things, et cetera, cherry on the top of the whipped cream and the chocolate sprinkles. Then you need to be spending your first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the trenches learning, right? While you're learning, you're also adding bullet points to your resume. Hey, I can do this now. Hey, I can do this now. Hey, I can do this now. I can do this. So in the beginning, like, even if the money's not that good, but it seems like a good company, a good opportunity, and it seems like you're going to have lots of things to learn there, or it's a place that you can go in and you can learn a thing or two from, then that might be the right job for you. Okay. If you're further along in your career, kind of like he is, then maybe jobs like that are not right for you. Okay. If a company is going to treat you as like a tool or an asset, then okay, you can't just, especially if you're not in the financial situation where you can just be jobless and do nothing and just like, hey, if you like to code and you're just going to sit around and code at your house all day long, that's fine and dandy. But if someone likes to do that, but if you can't do that because like you're in your 20s, or your 30s, your 40s, or maybe you have kids, you're not 70 years old or 60, you're not about to retire. You don't if you're still trying to move up in life and buy a house or have a family or whatever, then living like that is going to make it harder to accomplish those goals that you want, right? So if a company is going to treat you kind of like a tool or an asset, and you can't just not have a job, then and at that point, the only option you have because of whatever reason, and in the immediate time, like right now, if that's the only option you have, then okay, like that's okay temporarily, but you can feel free to kind of do the same. Okay. And I'm not saying that in a malicious way. I'm just saying it as it is, guys. Uh, there's the old saying, give respect where respect is earned. I think that holds a lot of weight. I always usually give respect up front. That's just how I was raised, where I come from. That's just how people are. Like, you always give respect to people that you don't know up front. You don't have to like wash their feet or anything like that, but you give the bare minimum of respect that you would wish would be given back to you. Okay. And come to find, a year in, if you're at a place like that, and you think you're giving them respect, you're giving them your time, you're giving them your effort, and then they suddenly give you a couple of reasons to kind of no longer do so, to kind of no longer respect them, then you can act accordingly. You don't have to be mean about it, but you most certainly don't have to be going above and beyond, trying to like flip over backwards for these people. And you can just do the bare minimum to get by, because I mean, if they're especially if they're going to be trying to take back from you, okay? And in this case, I'm talking about the guy, all right? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get more out of him and give less to him by giving him a raise. I mean, tell me, you guys, that this doesn't seem crazy, that this doesn't seem normal, right? That this is crazy. Like, you're supposed to be getting a quote unquote raise, and instead of giving you more compensation or even like a better title, no, it's going to be the same title. We're going to give you more work, and we're going to take away some of your salary. I mean, come on now, right? So what do you do if you're someone that's in a situation like that? Which, if anyone's been in the like the traditional workforce for more than like 5 years, then eventually something like this will probably happen to you, probably more so in your first 5 years. What do you do? Well, I mean, if there's another story I could tell you guys. If you're someone who's listening and you are in DD and you guys remember Boomer Bill and Scott, you guys remember that situation? I mean, that's another situation right there. What did Scott do? Well, at the time, he didn't really have the liberty to just quit because he was being disrespected and treated and misused and abused as an employee. And by the way, guys, and when I say that, I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm a millennial, I can't just be on my phone all day at work. No, I'm talking about these guys. These are hardworking people, men in 2022. That both these two guys, they're hardworking men, 2022, and they are millennials, but unlike most millennials their age, they actually are hardworking and they go above and beyond. They have the desire to do so. They have the desire to level up in life, do better, learn more, and obviously get compensated more for it as it comes, right? He wasn't at the liberty at the time to just quit. So what did he have to do? He had to kind of like bide his time. he did the bare minimum that he had to do. He had to kind of assert his boundaries a little bit more. But while this was going on, he was in the background at nighttime, sending out applications, interviewing at other places over and over and over again until he got an outlet to leave. And that's exactly what he did. He found something bigger and better. It paid him more. It didn't have a guy that was harassing him and micromanaging him, calling him like at Sunday at like 8 o'clock at night when he was going to visit his grandmother who was in the hospital. If you guys remember that story, if you are in the group. But yeah, that's not only is that not professional, that's kind of like improper, just basic social behavior to do. Anyway, what do you do if you're in a situation like that? You do just that, guys. You bide your time, okay? You bide your time, and you keep looking for something else, and just rest assured and trust yourself that you've gotten here so far. Inevitably, something else will come up to fill the gap in. Hardworking men indeed. The Revenge of Bumer Beal. Yeah, dude, screw that guy. I was so stoked when Scott got out of that situation, man. That was a very Boomer Bill-esque type of situation, if you know what I mean. Chad Donerschwanz, my subscriber with my favorite fucking name, dude, by the way. Like you have the strongest fucking YouTube name I've ever seen or read before ever. I'd have to say that. I will never forget you, Chad Donerschwanz, because of your name. Just know, I will never forget. He says, checking in from SWFLA, Afternoon Kings. Afternoon to you too. Southwest Florida. Is that what you mean by that? Southwest Florida. Well, sir. I mean, I guess technically I'm in Southeast Florida. However, sir, if that is what you mean, you take a look here on this good old map right here. Mr. Chad, I plan on moving to here. Right around this little area right here. Good old Homestead, Florida, and Florida City, Florida. Okay. So if that is where you're at, let me know, dude. We'll link up sometime. We'll go. I'll take you for a ride in the Bronco, and we can go through some of the old Pablo Escobar, like Everglades cocaine smuggling off-road trails over there, and hopefully we'll go see a gator or two. But yeah, you're in Naples, dude, for real? Dude, let's link up sometime. You know, like there's like 8 of us down here, dude. Seriously, we all went. The 2 people in the story that I'm talking about, we all went fishing last weekend, and like 2 of them that were there were the 2 guys that I'm talking about from the story. Seriously, come hang out with us sometime, man. Seriously. So that is what you do, guys. And what if you're in that kind of same situation and you're like worried about getting fired, right? Like you're like, I have to answer this dude's, I have to take this abuse. I have to be treated like I'm worth less, even though I'm doing so much more than a lot of people I see doing, et cetera, et cetera. Like whatever the situation it is, without sounding like a crybaby, because you know, everyone, if you're listening and you're in this situation, and it's probably personal to you, right? Not probably, it is personal to you, right? So if you're in kind of situation and you're like, fuck, that's me, I don't know what to do. I have to like keep taking it and dealing with it, because if not, I'll get fired and then blah, 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 right? Well, if that is the case, then you probably aren't going to be wanting to like, you know, like go into a meeting and just like tell whoever it is that is causing issues to just fuck off, right? You're probably not going to want to go around BDS, right? Going around, open the door and flopping it around, smacking everybody in the face. What you're going to have to do in that time is you're just going to have to play your cards right and kind of like wear the mask, okay? Do what needs to be done at a bare minimum, okay? Like definitely stop going above and beyond. And that's also going to be, you're going to have to be discretionary with that too, because if you come into a place and you were super hungry when you first came in there and you just kicked a bunch of ass and you probably did way more than what you should, that what is sustainable on a regular basis, then then you just doing the bare minimum at that time, that's going to look very bad. Whereas someone who didn't do that, and they did the bare minimum, that would be perfectly fine. So that let that be discretionary to you guys, but wear the mask, do what you need to do at the minimum. Okay. That is discretionary to you. And while you're not at work, while you're not on the clock or whatever, do the same thing that I told you that the other two guys did. You apply. If you need to learn something to make the chances of you getting something bigger and better more in your favor, then learn, spend your time, keep your head down, do the work. And I'm not just talking about the work for the job, do the work for yourself and apply and make your escape and get out. And when you're gone, don't look back, because they might actually be calling you to come back. You might not even have to do the looking back for them. For sure, dude. Hit me up on Telegram or IG. IG though, there's a link to my IG in the box below. So I'll have to say, guys, I've seen this happen so many different times, and it really is kind of like an eye-opening situation the first time something like that happens to you at a company. And if it's not the first time, and it's just serves as a reminder, okay? There are lots of companies out there that you are just a tool. You are just a human asset, and they don't, in the end of the day, they don't give a rat's ass about you. They'll tell you how much of a company family, blah, 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 blah. But when shit hits the fan, goodbye, you're not family now. There's a lot of them like that, right? However, there does actually exist, guys. There does actually exist. I know, sounds crazy. There does actually exist companies that are actually good companies, okay? That won't treat you like that are going to be the vast minority in 2022, but they do exist, okay? And they want people just like you, okay? They probably want people that think like you, that have the same goals like you do, and probably share a lot more things in common with you than the other places that you probably are more familiarized with working at, or just kind of the same kind of like, you have this feeling in the air that you're not valued at all, and et cetera, et cetera. I think you guys get the point, okay? I think you guys get the point. Now, which one is the right for you? That's also going to be different. But if you are at the place, and by the way, guys, you're not going to really know. You're not going to really know if a company is like that until you've worked there for a little bit, unless you've already heard lots of information from a vastly large, different amount of people. Okay, I'm not talking about just one person one time told you that they had a bad experience when they were working there. I'm talking about like, it's kind of like a known thing. Hey, this company is terrible to work at. Blah 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 blah. There are companies that exist that are not crappy. Okay. And those companies, like I said, I mean, they are the minority, and they're few and far in between in 2022, but they do exist. For me, I can tell you guys, for example, for me personally, if that's how it was, I mean, I would just want to be at a place that just cared primarily about the mission that they had and the goal they had and the things they want to accomplish. They would try to be leaving as much like political nonsense out of work. So when you're at work, or when you're on the clock, or when you're communicating with people, it's kind of like you don't really have like, you're not really having like large emotional conversations about things that are not even relevant to what you're doing. I.e., literally I can't say the word, but literally any one of the like current things. The company's trying to like get you to go spend extra time to support current thing. I mean, that's not really my thing. Okay. I know a lot of people that might be your thing. If you want to like go and, if you're really into Ukraine, you really want to save Ukraine and it means a lot to you, then that's fine. But for me, again, nothing wrong with that. That's who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you're into. Nothing wrong with that. For me, hey, maybe I would be into that, but not when I'm working. When I'm working, I have a goal I have to accomplish. I have tasks at hand that are of the utmost importance. And the last thing I want to do is spending time like that. And that would probably be the number one characteristic or the number one trait of would be a good fit for me. Also, to have me feel like some sort of fulfillment, because a lot of these companies, you're not going to really feel you're not going to feel very fulfilled at, especially if you're getting kicked around like a used can of Diet Coke. And then also to be paid accordingly. Okay. And I'm not talking about a company that's like, hey, how much can we not pay this person and get the maximum amount of job, like work out of them? The opposite. Like, I want a company, like for me, the company would be more so along the lines of, hey, this is probably a good guy. We can see it. We've seen it from his background, et cetera, et cetera. And like, we want to be able to give him the amount of money that would be required for him not to want to like venture elsewhere, right? Same thing, but again, you're not going to know this kind of stuff until you've been there for a little bit. Okay. Same thing, like they say, like with relationships, you don't really know somebody until like a year in or whatever it is. It's the same thing. Okay. So think about those things that kind of like, doesn't have to be the exact same things. Okay. But that are kind of like how I said, guys, and keep that in mind when you're trying to find that right job or the right company for you. Okay. Again, for the 18,000th time, that's going to be specific to you, but be thinking about those things when you're at places. And then also use that as a tool to realize, hey, this might not be the right place for me. And if you have the abilities to, it might be for the better for you to leave, even if you don't have anything immediately to go to onwards. It might be the benefit of not just you, but the company too, for you to just leave. Okay. It might beeth so. So with that being said, I think a lot of the last 2 years, guys, I think they have shown a lot of people a lot of things. I mean, the whole Great Resignation thing. I highly doubt that I think most people in the Great Resignation that were like leaving their jobs, or like changing their careers to go from like being a doctor to like a deep sea spear fisherman, like for their passion. I think a lot of that woke people up. Actually, I don't think it actually woke most of those people up. I think most people were just at places, just kind of doing the bare minimum and just like floating along because they felt like they had to. But when they realize that when the world's going crazy and you see some stuff that you haven't dealt with in your entire life, you stop taking things for granted so much and you start to kind of like embrace life. As cheesy as it sounds, I think that's probably a large amount to do with it. And I think that's still going to continue on today, whether or not we keep going in that same direction as far as like the world, the you know what I mean? I mean, who knows what's next with that? But I also see it going in the opposite directions as well. I think these are kind of ebbs and flows. I think the economy has got a lot to do with the changes. And I think we're about to start. I mean, we've been seeing the most rapid changes in the economy I'm only 30 years old, but I've seen my whole life. Okay. And I know there's people that are older than me that have said the same thing. And I think that the interval of like periods where we see these changes, I think they're going to become smaller. Okay. I think the interval and the rate of changes that we're going to see are going to become smaller, but that's not always a bad thing. It's probably a good thing. And that is something that all of us can note and be able to, take advantage of. Not necessarily to take advantage of to like steal, but you guys get the drift, to make your lives better. Okay. And always keeping that in mind at the forefront of your head while going through the process of being someone who works. Okay. So with that being said, my friends, I would also like to announce that the stream is and always has been sponsored by myself. But yes, guys, the new boot camp is out. It's open. It's going to be open until the 9th, which I think is Tuesday. Bootcamp Agile, developerdirection.com. You guys can see it right here. This is the new one. Go ahead and check it out if it is something that you guys are interested in, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm not going to be streaming tonight, guys, but I have something that I really wanted to do. If you guys really want to know, what it was, why I'm not going to be streaming here at 8:30 p.m. Tonight, and I chose to do 3:30 instead. I got this really cool new synthetic bait from Amazon. It's called voodoo shrimp, and I really want to go use them because apparently the fish love these things. Let me see if I can show you guys. I want to go before it's target nighttime. I'll show you guys the voodoo shrimp. I will show y'all the voodoo shrimp. Okay, check this out. Now, if anyone here fishes, then you probably know that synthetic bait is never going to be as good as real bait. But hey, let's just say you're just trying to go like hit some spots up. You don't want to be carrying around a bucket full like live bait and stuff, and you just want to make it quick. These things, guys, if you go look on YouTube, I've seen some people like, dude, some fish love these things, man. They're kind of like they're kind of stealthy looking. Like they got a little jig head with a little sink right there. So you're gonna have enough. It's gonna have enough weight behind it to actually cast it. Okay. And apparently they move like a real shrimp. I'm excited. I'm gonna go use it. So yeah, as always, guys, learn to code, learn to change your own tire, self-custody your crypto. Link in the description box for all of the above except for the tire, because I'm too lazy to do that for you guys. See ya.